Hello, listeners. Welcome to the Nerdy Photographer Podcast. I am your host, Casey Fatchett. If you haven't listened to the podcast before, in addition to bringing you informative and entertaining photography and business-related content, I also go on adventures with the crew of the Starship Fibonacci. The crew and I are not in the best mood right now. We've been chasing mechanic, smuggler, and all-around rogue, Hamdo Bane, all across the galaxy, and well, he got the drop on us. He managed to botnap Rule of 3 RDS. There are a lot of reasons to be concerned about that since a number of parties have tried to capture Rula over the period of time that we've been together, since she has not only an enormous power source capable of ripping through the fabric of space-time inside her, but also encrypted data files that could lead to something even more disturbing, if that's even possible. Right now, the crew and I are nursing our sorrows at a space cantina, which is just like any other cantina, I guess, except that it's in outer space. At least to you listeners on Earth. It's all a matter of perspective, I guess. Anyway, in this episode, I will be speaking with wedding photographer Devon Rowland about how to incorporate your personality into your photography brand and why that is important. All of that after this short break. Hey, can I get another drink over here?
Hey, Doc. Thanks for seeing me.
No problem. I'm glad we got that whole other thing cleared up.
Yeah, I have to say, you scared me pretty bad when you told me I only had 6 months to live.
And you would have. In the Wild Wild West. But luckily, we have creams for that these days.
I appreciate it.
But I didn't ask you to come in to discuss life-saving salves and ointments.
What is it, Doc?
It's your WordPress website. It's old and outdated, and it needs a fresh new look.
I know, Doc. But I just don't have the money to pay a designer for a custom website.
You don't need to pay for a custom design when you use Flow Themes.
Flow themes?
Yes, Flow Themes. They have a wide variety of WordPress themes for the modern creative. Not just photographers, but for videographers, florists, wedding planners, and much more.
But are they customizable to suit my needs?
Yes, every theme is totally customizable. Flow Themes has even launched a new line of Flex themes, which allows you to customize your website further than ever before while maintaining a cohesive, professional-looking theme.
Where can I get one, Doc?
Go to nerdyphotographer.com/recommends/flow themes to learn more and see what they have to offer.
Thanks, Doc. I really appreciate it.
Good. But now we're going to need to talk about what's wrong with your uvula.
My uvula? What is it?
It's a small teardrop-shaped piece of soft tissue that hangs down in the back of your throat, but that's not important right now.
Hello, and welcome to the Nerdy Photographer Podcast. I'm your host, Casey Fatchett, and I'm joined today by wedding photographer Devon Rowland, and we're going to talk to you today about personality and branding. Welcome, Devon.
Hey, Casey, how's it going?
Pretty good. So why is it important for your personality to come through in your branding, whether it be photography or videography?
I think for me, the first step was really just that it is a marketing strategy. There are so many photographers, there are so many videographers, and having your personality be part of your branding and part of who you are is one more way that you can differentiate. I'm in the Baltimore, DC area, and there are dozens, if not hundreds, of incredible professional photographers. There's just so many great people here, and what might make one photographer a better fit for another, I do primarily weddings, so like what might make one person better for a wedding day than another could come down to just a personality fit and having that understanding between people.
Yeah, I think it's definitely has to do with, like it's a saturated market. There's just so many photographers and videographers and people out there for people to choose from, especially in this industry. It's like, how do you choose someone? Well, you're really differentiating based on things like customer service and personality. Like, you're who you see as a person. And it's, people are attracted to like-minded, and you don't have to be exactly the same, but they're looking for people who are like-minded to hire. So
yeah,
go ahead.
So yeah, exactly. And I think that that makes the fit better in so many ways too. Like you need to be an artistic fit, whether you're light and airy or if you're dark and moody or desaturated hipster, like whatever your style is. Um, I think we're mostly past the like only yellows in pictures. I could be wrong. Um, but yeah, that personality fit. And I do work a lot of sort of less traditional weddings. And even in the more traditional ones, having people feel like they can connect with me gives me sort of better access to them as people, which I think is something that really shows up in the photos. A lot of my images and a lot of what clients say when they're booking me that they like is that they like how much personality the subjects have in their pictures and how much it's really showing you more than just, okay, someone had really great makeup on this day. It's like, oh, they were really happy on this day. And so it's my personality shows through, but in that it's also being able to highlight and showcase their personality as well.
Well, I think that, we intrinsically are picking up on things that are, reflections of ourselves and our subjects as well. So what are some ways that we can decide what parts of our personality reflect in our branding?
That is a great question. A lot of that comes down to if you get into marketing personas, and I mean, if you want to get to the super nerdy side of it, the very business side of it, you look at your marketing personas, you look at who it is that you want to hire you. This one of my favorite couples this last year, which is a fairly small group since it was 2020. Um, they work professionally in video games, and that was kind of one of those things where it wasn't uncomfortable for them to talk about video games with me. Being able to have people feel comfortable about that, and so kind of I think picking a couple of things that you're willing to talk about. You don't have to let your professional life 100% encroach on your real life. You don't have to talk about your kids were sick and you had a really bad day unless you want to. But you can decide I'm going to be known as that nerdy photographer. I'm going to talk about video games. I'm going to talk about cons. I'm going to talk about my Kotaku.
Yeah, it's those things like, like for me, it's, I love comic books and like there's the various movies that I love. I also have, an expanse of useless information, but it's just like those sorts of things. That's part of who I am. And I sort of bring those things up with my clients and I let them know that, whatever it is that they enjoy, like, for example, I always ask them like, what are your favorite movies and TV shows? Because I ended up, I have this, encyclopedic knowledge of movie and TV quotes. So that like when we're doing their engagement session or at their wedding, whatever, I will throw out a quote from their favorite movie or their favorite TV show or something that will make them like, that will put them at ease. And that's sort of like, like letting them know that ahead of time before they're even hiring. It's in my branding that like, hey, guess what? I'm going to like quote movies to you. That's going to happen. And like that led to like a wedding I did in 2019 when I was doing the engagement session. She was the one who like the bride was the singer. Like she loved to like sing songs. And like, so like she and I would like throw lyrics back and forth at each other. The groom to be was like, quoting movies. We were quoting movies back and forth. She's like, oh, this may have been a bad idea because it's just like I fed into the like what each of them wanted to do, like what their thing was. So it's like I also put that in my like I put it in my copy on my website. I tell people like, hey, I'm going to quote movies. I'm going to sing songs, and I might cry at your wedding because when it comes down to it, I'm a very sentimental person. But those are the sorts of things that you like. Like you said, you don't have to put your whole self out there to the world and say like, this is everything that happens to me, or this is every part of who I am. But it's finding those things, like you said, that clients will see and be like, oh, I can feel comfortable with this person because there's something that it might not be the exact same thing, but there's something about this person that I see myself in or I can relate to in some way.
But yeah, I was just talking about this with a friend in Baltimore as well, who's a wedding photographer, and she was saying that she always very purposely drops an F bomb in every wedding client meeting because she's like, I am going to end up swearing at their wedding day. I will try not to do it for family photos. I will try not to do it in front of small children, but I will end up swearing. And if that is something that turns them off and is a problem, we're not going to be a great fit on the wedding day. And so I think there's also a side of it where making sure that your personality is fairly visible and available in your branding helps you to get clients that you're going to have fun working with. I know photographers who are in it for the money and are making great money, and that's awesome. And I am certainly not, here just for the art at the expense of having a living that provides for me. But also, I don't want to be doing this just as, I don't know, a robot who is there to click buttons and not have any, enjoyment or satisfaction out of the day. I don't want to be working with people for 6, 8, 10, 14 hours a day on one of the most stressful days of their lives. If I'm not enjoying it, and if I'm not enjoying them, and if I'm not happy capturing who they are and what they're doing.
Yeah,
So I think that,
you want to attract people who, like, as a business person, as a photographer, you want to attract people that you want to be around. Like, it's just as much as, people who are hiring you want to be like around someone that they feel comfortable with. You want to feel the same way. And I was like, for example, I was listening to another photographer speak recently, and he was saying, like, everyone was just like, there for a while was only interested in getting into luxury weddings when it comes to like wedding photography. They were only like, oh, how can I get the biggest, highest paying jobs? And they weren't really thinking about like, how could I, like, this was a period of time a while ago. I'm sure there's still those people out there, as you said, but like now it's turning more into like people who are like, I want to find the people who connect on a different level. And it's not just about having the highest priced thing to look for. Sure, I'm sure there are still people out there, but those are the people who are not differentiating their brand. Their brand is just based on luxury. It's not based on personality. And for people who run their own business, who have a business that has, especially for you, myself, we have our businesses have our names on them. So like you are automatically a big part of what your brand is. So it becomes more and more important to have some element of who you are and how you present yourself as part of your branding. And that means like everything from your, copy on your website to your social media and what the captions are in your Instagram stuff. Like you need to like pepper that in and make sure that it's a little bit of the sauce that you spice all the things that you put out there to your clients.
yeah, absolutely. And for me as well, part of how I started photographing was actually photographing live events that I just happened to be going to anyway. So I was photographing fire performance. I was photographing sideshow. I was photographing burlesque. I was photographing swing dancing. And these were all things that I was engaging with as a human, outside of the camera. And so I think it would have felt really disingenuous for me and then for the friends that turned into clientele, that turned into referral network, if my personality of my photography business didn't match the personality they were seeing on Friday night when we're all crammed into a tiny venue that was in the middle of Northeast DC.
Yeah. And I think this gets into like how important it is then to be genuine in your brand. Like when you start like putting your personality into it, it really needs to be authentic things to you. Because if you start like sort of like choosing like, I want to be like, if, for example, if I was saying like, I am a photographer for nerdy people, but I really wasn't that nerdy. I'm just like, oh, this has just sort of become like, this is the sort of group that I want to attract, but you don't have a genuine connection to that, then it starts to like affect your brand. Like how important is it to be genuine in that choice of branding?
For sure. Like if you're branding yourself as being a nerdy photographer and your couple makes a joke about a critical role or something and you just blank, that's not exactly gonna win you the points or make them trust who you are.
Then you've failed the role for initiative.
Exactly. I mean, we can get into like deception roles and stuff too, but um, so yeah, and I think that part of that also is they are then able to trust you even more because they have this idea of who you are. And if there's that disconnect, there's a little bit of a break in the trust, which will continue sort of further down as well into, oh, well, maybe they're not who they said they are. Like maybe we're not going to get great pictures, or maybe if they tell me to do this, it's a crazy idea and I'm not going to do it.
Right. Because then if they don't feel like people can smell bullshit like pretty easily, especially online. And I think that, at least in my opinion, as we get down to like millennials and Gen Zers, like they seem to be much better at like sort of picking apart people who like are not real in how they present themselves. So when you like start putting yourself out there as like, hey, if I was to go out there and be like, hey, I'm like the cool rock star photographer guy. Like people would see through that in an instant because that's just not who I am. That's not like I'm much more easygoing. I'm, not like drawing attention to myself. I'm the nerdy guy who stands in the corner and just like, I'm part of why I'm good at getting those sort of fly on the wall moments is because that's who my personality is. Like I stand back and observe things and, look for those moments. So I guess at this point, like what advice would you have for photographers or videographers looking to express their personality via their social media or blogging or through the copy on their website?
Yeah, I would say pick maybe 2 or 3 things that are really central to who you feel that you are and that you feel resonates with sort of your ideal client, with who you want to be working with. So is it nerd things? Is it love of your city? Is it social justice movement issues? There's a donut shop in Baltimore that I absolutely love, not just because their donuts are great, but because their social media has a lot of really incredible social justice statements that completely resonate with me. And so they make me really happy to be putting my money into it. Um, and so it's even things like that. So just, I think, pick a couple and also decide if you have limits and what they are. If you want to decide that you are not talking about your kids, if you want to decide you're not talking about your partner, that's completely fine. You don't owe the internet everything about who you are. And you don't have to show all of, the soft underbelly or the weak spots if you don't want to.
Yeah. For example, like I choose to sort of focus on a few things like my nerdy behavior, my sentimentality, and my dog. Those are like sort of like my 3 things that I sort of like revolve around. Like that, those are what I choose because that just has the most connection. Like dog people immediately know. Like there's just an instant connection. They're like they see the dog and they're just like, oh yeah, like this is what happens there. Like that is a connection that you can make with people. And when you're talking about things like a saturated market and just how like many people are out there doing the same thing, how do you stand out in that crowd? It's by incorporating those elements of yourself that are really truly who you are that help you stand out and be unique in the eyes of a potential client.
Absolutely. I did an SEO workshop with Rob Greer years and years ago, and he said that if you have dog pictures, make sure to put them on. If you have cat pictures, it's a maybe because people don't love cats as much as dogs. And I still kind of want to fight him on that because I definitely am a cat person. But I agree about dogs. And I was having a conversation with some folks a while ago about personality and how much to put online. And someone was saying, no one cares about your dog. No one cares to see your coffee mug, like just show your work. And literally the next weekend, I was second shooting for, fancy international photographer, whatever. And one of the first things the bride said to this photographer was, "Oh my gosh, how is your dog? I love following your Instagram stories so that I can see your dog." So it really is just those little moments of connection. And I think that that's even more important right now in the 2020 to 2021 world that we're all living in.
Yeah, definitely. It's as someone else had mentioned to me, it's the moment when the client or a potential client thinks I I know who this person is. I feel like I've already met you. Like when they come in, like when it used to be pre-COVID times when people would come in for meetings and actually sit down in front of you and have a conversation, it was the thing that I would get from people. And now I still get it on like Zoom calls or whatever, like our chats, whatever. People come and they're like, I feel like I already know you. I feel like I've met you from looking at your, Instagram stories or from, reading your blog, and just like the way in which the stories you tell are very personalized in that way. Like there's so much of your personality comes out in your voice, in the way that you just write the captions on your Instagram posts or the way that you write your blog. You feel like I know you. And that's what's key. It's because we are so, so much happens through, screens and not in person before someone decides to even talk to you. That to get a sense of who you are as a person is so very, very important. Like because that's why then they feel like, oh, I know you. They have an emotional connection to you. And that's one of the reasons, like what you're saying with the dog, like people have like an emotional connection to dog. I have had cats. I loved my cats. I don't think I have as strong, just saying, I don't think I have a strong emotional connection to seeing photos of cats. I see a dog and I'm just like, oh. So you create that emotional connection. But you're saying there are people out there, and maybe the people that you are looking for, they see that cat photo and they just have that like same sort of reaction. And that's what we want to do, like, because that's what's going to bring people. If we want to talk sales funnels, which is personally one of my most hated phrases, but it's true, like bringing people in, that's what brings them further and further down that journey, that sales journey to hiring you, is feeling comfortable and that they have a connection, that they don't want to miss out on what you have to provide, and they just feel comfortable with you.
For sure. And I think especially if you are a photographer, like you were mentioning that you like to be that fly on the wall. And I do personally sort of have a merge of that with a little bit heavier posing depending on the situation. Um, but you need your clients to trust you for that. You need them to trust you that you're getting what they need. You need them to trust you that, if you're taking a picture of them flossing between the reception and the party or something, that there's a reason. And if it's terrible, you're going to throw it away. And if it's hilarious, you're going to give it to them. True story, real thing that happened. It was hilarious. But yeah, I think that showing personality and building that is an important way to establish who you're looking to be working with and sort of help people, uh, you know, draw themselves in or weed themselves out, and then also build up the trust for when you are working together.
Yeah, you certainly I can say, like, since the time when I really devoted myself to making my personality a part of my branding and marketing and whatever, all that whole milieu of things, I noticed that the quality of the inquiries that people like contacting me about jobs went way up. Like, I maybe didn't have as many people contact me, but like the number of people who were looking to contact me who really had a connection to my work and to what I do as like who I am as a person really like increased because they had already connected with who I am.
100%. Like, do you want 70 inquiries and you only book 3, or do you want 7 inquiries and you book 6 of them?
Exactly. Hey, and now for my favorite part of the show. What's that say? Useless information. This is always death. I'm not sure if you knew this, but poppy seeds can actually cause a false positive on a drug test. Poppy seeds contain morphine, but when you eat them, they have no drug-related effects on your body. However, still detectable on a drug test. So you can conceivably eat a poppy seed bagel or a poppy seed muffin and test positive for heroin on a drug test. At least until the late 1990s, when drug testing companies adjusted the positive testing point, increasing it by 700% to weed out food-related false positives.
That is good to know. There is a poppy seed cookie that I really like, so I am glad to know that I will no longer have to risk false positive tests if I ever have to do a drug test again.
Well, I mean, I honestly would hear these stories about people going like, yeah, I failed my drug test, but I had a poppy seed bagel. And I was like, sure, that's why you failed your drug test. You had a poppy seed bagel. And then it's like, no, that's actually true. Like, you could fail a drug test because of that.
Yeah, so I'm not sure how we handle the situation.
Did you have a contract?
Well, I had one I found for free online, but my lawyer says it might not hold up.
Next time, you should head over to nerdyphotographer.com. They've got a selection of contract templates for weddings, events, portrait sessions, and even for hiring second photographers and associate photographers, which would certainly have helped you in your current situation.
Really? I will check that out. Nerdyphotographer.com?
Yep, nerdyphotographer.com. They've got all sorts of contracts and agreements that can help make sure to protect you and your clients. So what are you going to do?
Well, we just have to wait and see what happens, I guess.
So, no pants on?
who know anything below the waist. Totally Porky Pig in it.
Impressive.
Not really. It was pretty cold out.
Ew.
Yep.
Welcome back. I would like to thank my guest, Devon Rowland, for being on the show. You can learn more about Devon at devonrowland.com. That's DEVONROWLAND.com. You can also find her on Instagram at Devon Rowland Photography and on Clubhouse at Devon Rowland. As always, if you have not already, please subscribe to the Nerdy Photographer Podcast and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you happen to get your podcasts. Could be anywhere. Could be Stitcher, could be Spotify, wherever it is. Leave us a review. You can find us on Facebook at Nerdy Photographer and on Instagram and Twitter at The Nerdy Photo. You can also find me on Clubhouse at KCF Photo. What's that? What did you say? You know where Hamdo Bane is. He's digging for something on the planet Tanis. Wait a second. Hold on. Until next time, everybody, stay safe and stay nerdy. Okay, so tell me more about this Tanis place.
Who's coming back to town? You better start listening. Who's your heart been beating about? You better listen.
Hey there, do you like movies, cartoons, video games, anime, and everything in between? Then we have a show for you. The 4 Nerds by Nerds podcast. Every week, Josh and Ben bring you all the latest and greatest in movie reviews, news, commentaries, interviews, special guests, and tons of bonus episodes. New episodes come out every Monday. We also make great nerdy content on our YouTube channel. You can find our show anywhere podcasts are found. The 4 Nerds by Nerds podcast. Your one stop for all your nerdy needs. Stay nerdy, my friends.